team of immersed reporters bring you the news as it happens. Join us every 6 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. each day for a comprehensive look at the stories beyond the headlines.
3, 2, 1.
You're watching ABC News GH.
ABC News GH, your trusted source for news.
ABC in the morning live on ABC News GH. I am Abena Mate, and it's an honor and pleasure to come your way this morning with this very comprehensive morning show. It is a very cold morning, and we know all what a cold morning comes with, a bit sluggishness and all, but today is Friday, so at least let that be the ray of sunshine in the cold morning, and look forward to the day ending on a beautiful note so that you too can go for a very relaxing weekend. Today is the 15th of November in the year of our Lord 2024. ABC in the morning is live on our YouTube channel. Channel is ABC News GH, and on our socials you can get in touch with us at ABC News GH _. Our website is www.abcnewsgh.com. If you want to send us a message or call into the show, you can do that on 0539161609. 0539161609. Here on ABC News GH, we say that it is your comprehensive show or your comprehensive TV station for everything about the elections. That's why we bring you the Poll Center. It is a center you don't want to miss at all. And on the Poll Center, it's votes, not violence, where we're advocating that you only pay attention to your votes and not be used as a tool or a conduit for violence. On ABC in the morning today, we'll bring you our front story, where we are looking at the rise in market fires. We'll bring you the latest in sports and all you need to know in Tech Trick. On Ghana Speaks, we'll be taking some reactions from you. Yesterday, the Supreme Court finally released their verdict on their ruling in Parliament a few days ago, a 109-paged one, and we've been perusing that. So we will take your sentiments or your opinion on that too. On our main discussion, we have conversations that you will enjoy so much, and we will bring you all of that in our main discussion about climate. We'll also bring you politics today. We'll bring you happy hour. If you haven't sent that shout out or birthday wish yet, do well to send it right now. Send it to our socials at ABC News GH _. Call us 0539161609, and we'll bring you executive interview, that segment which is for you and you alone. So be in tune with us. Don't leave at all. Stay with us. Stick and stay, and you will enjoy the show today. Let's take a quick break. We will be back with Front Story. Welcome back and still watching ABC in the morning. Let's head straight into our front story. We are looking at the increase in market fires. And we are delving deeper into the recent outbreak that happened in the early hours of yesterday, 14th November, at the Odona market. This year, Ghana has seen a troubling string of market fires, with blazes devastating iconic trading hubs from Makola Market to Zongo Lane. Most recently, the Odona River at Circle became the latest scene of destruction, sparking widespread concern across the nation. Each incident brings to light not only the rapid and courageous responses from the Ghana National Fire Service, but also it reveals the limitations they face, whether it's the tools and equipment at their disposal or the constraints of navigating congested market areas. These fires ignite more than just stores. They fan the flames of deeper questions about safety, responsibility, and resilience. For instance, overcrowded markets, questionable electrical setups, and the lack of adherence to fire safety practices all play a role in creating conditions ripe for these recurring disasters. Despite efforts from the government, including compensations to Odona's affected residents with funds to facilitate relocation, the community remained in place, a decision that has now come under scrutiny as the flames erupted once again. Today we are diving into the layers of this issue. Why do these fires keep happening? Are Ghanaians missing vital practices when it comes to fire safety? And again, what can be done to break this pattern before the next market fire erupts and engulfs the markets? There's a 2024 quarterly report on fire outbreaks. Let's take a look at it. And in that report, the Ghana Fire Service recorded 2,291 fire outbreaks in the first quarter alone of this year, as against some 2,177 the previous year within the same period, representing a 5.24% increase in recorded cases. Divisional Officer Grade 3 Desmond Aka disclosed that the Ghana National Fire Service recorded 596 on-arrival cases last year and recorded 620 such cases in the first quarter of this year. This means that the fires alone in the first quarter this year far exceeded the fire outbreak last year, and the figure shows an increase in fire outbreaks as compared to the 2,683 fires reported during the same period in 2023. During the review period, the service dealt with 176 road traffic accidents, 747 injuries, and 92 deaths. Out of the total fire incidents reported over that period, 1,985 were extinguished by fire personnel, while the public doused some 779 upon arrival at the scene. Regional fire statistics indicated that the Greater Accra region reported the highest number of fires, with 708 cases, followed by Ashanti with 661 cases. However, the Northeast region had the fewest, with 17 cases in 2024 compared to lower fire cases recorded in the aforementioned regions in 2023. Bushfires followed at 17%, down from 17.8% in 2023. Key issues that have caused fire outbreaks in the country over the years are improper electrical wiring, use of flammable materials, leaving electrical appliances on, poor waste management, unauthorized cooking and heating, lack of fire extinguishers and fire safety equipment, overcrowding of market spaces, illegal connections or power tapping, amongst others. But these are the key ones that that have caused the fires to be engulfing other places. We took to the streets to speak with Ghanaians about the increase in fires. Let's listen to them.
Two hours we were sighting. If you electric fault, the electric will start. I started so Ghana Michigan district and for the place 7 yeah, into the shower, struggling at the fair fast and 2,000 with one. 30 minutes time and some wind up. By then, the feet will inside.
Young community and I see about light with market here, more for home, more life in the boat. Dynamite, Diamond, I've been I buy the normal why? And then no Gama is
it's like this is not the first time. At times, normally it's me, sir. If you want to one nation, if you want to one, or the amount must ask for the amount. Everybody, each and everybody will be in an idiot. By it seems that as well, they was move free, so I don't know. You'll be a gypsy from here A to Z, from H to B. Our mom will be a
this one kind of about dinosaur. Yes, it's a hashi. You need me, baby. That my mom and so many years to mamma pesca the man. You see, I'm in Kosoakaya, Mineska. You see, I'm in Pesca, Adia, Medina, Shia. I'm common woman, I come mom's car, and buy business. Like I am born a bravo. Yes, I'm I don't want to show the glass showcase. Glass here, the toy there. Maybe I shed out my ship and a dining zinc, Panama. Maybe I shed out my ship and a dining zinc, Panama.
Yesterday, the fire that gutted the Odona market. Let's speak with the Director of Communications for NADMO, Mr. George A.C. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good morning.
We come to you obviously because of yesterday's unfortunate fire outbreak at the Odona market. In recent months, we've seen multiple market fires at places like Makola, the Zongo Lane, and now Odona. From where you stand as NADMO, what are the contributing factors to these fire outbreaks?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to your viewers and listeners. We know illegal electrical connections are part of it. Cooking in the markets has been, over the years, has been established to be part of the reason why fire got the marketplaces. So these are the basic, immediate causes of market fires that has been happening over the years.
With the issue of Odona, the place is extremely crowded to the point where navigation is quite an issue. What is it with places like this that even after every incident like this, an unfortunate incident, they still do not want to move from the place, even after they've been compensated?
Yes, that's where they do their business. People have come to Accra to hustle, and they've gotten a place there everybody feels that's where they can carry out their trade and do their business. And so when the fire gathers those places and then you tell them to move away, they still come back because that's their space. They feel it's my space. That's where I do business. That's like most times we go there. You're right. It's very, very crowded, and everybody seems to be okay there. And unfortunately, in spite of the crowded nature of the place, people still make it a point to be cooking within the space. And then the connections, most times we see the wiring system there, not too nice at all. And it is, if you do that, you tell them, oh, go away and all that, you see that they'll come back, rebuild, resettle, and then begin doing their business activities over there. It's very difficult. The way they are being adamant in listening to good reasoning to get the place, being reduced as far as the number of people working there is concerned. So it's about the issues of space and the business activities they carry out.
Ms. Stacey, I want to believe that NADMO has engaged them extensively about their health and safety. What has been the major challenge you have faced in getting them to reason with you?
As I said, it's about the space. It's their business. They don't even look at health issues and others. They are in the place for their business, and it's difficult. When the incidents happen and you engage them, you see they understand what we're saying. They appreciate the challenges. Fire service, they do the assessment. We go in there, all of us. When you talk to them, yes, they understand you. But once the issue is over and the rebuilding begins, it's about their space and their business, not the health issues are not even considered at all. It's about their space and doing their business, carrying on the activities until, unfortunately, another incident occurs before they get to the realization that it's not the best, but it's primarily focusing on doing their business.
This means that there obviously is a gap somewhere, because if your business is taking center stage, regardless of the health implications or whatever may happen to your life, it means that there's a gap, and that gap has to be filled. Where you stand as communications, director of communications for NADMO, what would you say would be the most pressing issue that if government handled properly, it will mitigate this issue, and how best should government handle it?
Yes, the government and assembly, especially the Kole assembly, must make it a point that we stop the density of the people in the place, especially those who do their trading activities there. We know we have the city guards who move around mostly. It should be a matter of priority that we reduce the number that operate from that place. Should be something that we deliberately and consciously do as city guards, and then if possible, if we have to bring the police in, we must, so that we reduce it. Then there should be constant monitoring of the activities in the place, especially the illegal connections. We should get ECG to be going around the place, doing an assessment and ensuring that nobody is illegally tapping or connecting power anywhere within the enclave. And then those who use gas and coal pots to cook within the market enclave, because of the concentration of the people, it's not proper. Some also will leave it, they see they will put the fire off, but charcoal, when they pour water, you don't monitor that, it's completely quenched. It reignites. So in the middle of the night, anything can happen. Some of these activities, they should monitor it properly. And when everybody is gone, the security people that, man the place should go around and see whether everything is in order each day. That will be something that can help us going forward.
Mr. Stacey, what immediate steps can NADMO take in collaboration with the other agencies to prevent market fires recurring in especially high-risk markets? We are entering into the Christmas. Many people will rush into the markets. There will be an influx of people. We don't want to see these unfortunate incidents. So what steps will NADMO, in collaboration with other agencies, be taken to safeguard us?
Yeah, as I said, most of the things I said earlier, NADMO particularly collaborates with fire service. In fact, they are the lead agency in matters of firefighting. And so, yes, there we should engage the market people in sensitization, engage them in fire education, engage them on the way to protect and prevent fire outbreaks within their markets and the market enclave. So it's continuous engagement and sensitization of the people, especially within such volatile market enclaves.
Okay. We are grateful for your time this morning. We'll have more conversations with you, especially about our safety, especially in these times when people are going to be getting into the markets a lot. People will be on the streets. We're entering into a very robust period, the Christmas period. But we are grateful for your time this morning.
And you know the dryness of the atmosphere and all
Right.
that. So yeah, we need to be careful and cautious wherever, not only the market, everywhere.
We'll do well to come back to you. We'll need to have more conversations.
Thank you, my sister.
Okay. George Aisi is the Director of Communications for NADMO. This issue about fire outbreaks in the markets, the increasing market fires here and the people cooking in the markets using coal pots and all. You think you have extinguished the fire only for the fire to reignite at the time when you are not on guard, and the next thing you know, it's had a very devastating effect, an effect that you can't do anything about. So our market women, market men are encouraged to pay particular attention to your surroundings in the market so that these things don't continue to happen. The wiring, the illegal wiring and all, the exposure of the wires. Let's be careful because businesses and lives are at stake. Let's speak with DO3 Desmond Aka. He is the Deputy PRO for the Ghana National Service. Good morning, sir. You're welcome.
Good morning.
Please help me get your position right so that I don't miscall you, sir, or misaddress you.
All right. So I am Division Officer Grade 2, Desmond Aka, the Head of Public Relations,
all right,
Ghana National Fire Service.
Thank you, sir. From where you sit, what has been the fundamental cause of some of the market fires that have been recorded this year?
All right. Let me say a very good morning to your cherished listeners. These types of fires have been occurring, especially in the slum communities. But as proactive as we have been, we have constantly been engaging with the residents of such communities. We know that in the first place, these communities must not be allowed to even stand. But before we realize they are even there. And that is why we've also taken it upon ourselves, because most of the times when these fires happen, they are the ones that are mostly affected. And because of the nature of the materials they use in construction, these are makeshift structures, predominantly wooden structures. They are so closely put together. And then if you consider some of the activities there, especially illegal wiring, such places do not have meters. And those places with meters, you would realize that about 10 or more structures are sharing just a meter. And you could bear with me the kind of overloading that exists within such communities. Aside that, they tend to be careless with the use of naked lights, such as mosquito coils, matches, and then even do not pay much attention to their cooking. And sometimes where you have some radical groups, some subgroups who may have some misunderstanding among themselves, who may want to settle their scores using fires, some of these fires are bound to happen. So in as much as a service we have done creditably well in educating such residents, we would want the local authorities who have the mandate to ensure that such slums do not even develop. If possible, we can find better places of accommodating some of these, let's say, migrants who are in to look for greener pastures and to also make a living out of the life they are making. So these are some of the things that normally happen that lead to these fires. And yesterday, for instance, when we had a fire call, we responded with 2 pumps. And upon arrival, it was even very difficult for us to get to the seat of the fire. So we struggled. What we had to do was to lay some lengths of hoses. And in our operations, the more length of hoses you lay, it means that you will not get enough water on the burning surface. And we were much aware of that, and therefore we were able to marshal additional tender to help us to be able to get continuous water stream to be able to deal with the fire. And based on the strategies that we deployed, and nobody got injured, nobody died, except 15 structures, 9 of which being domestic, used as a domestic or dwelling places, and then 7 being commercial facilities were raised down by these fires. And like I've indicated already, because of the strategies that we put in place, there was some one big warehouse behind those structures that we were able to salvage, coupled with other structures that were so close to the affected area. But thankfully, just as we have always been, we are the unsung heroes. We were able to make sure that no life was lost, and then quickly had to evacuate those who were in danger to ensure that lives were preserved and the adjoining properties were salvaged. So we will continue to engage with such community leaders and ensure that we give them the best of fire safety education that there is, and then appeal to the local authorities, such as the assemblies, to ensure that such slums do not be allowed in our cities, because it poses a lot of risk to us. And
do they listen? Do they listen to these things that you tell them about not living in places like this? These slums are susceptible to fires and all. Do they listen to you after you have given them all of this education?
Yes, these are low-income earners, and their mind is preoccupied with how to make a living. And as humans as they are, yes, they will listen, but as humans as they are, they tend to be careless, and that is where we have issues with these fires happening. You see, so we cannot say that because these people have built up these makeshift structures, we have no business dealing with them. And what we are even planning is to even help them to acquire fire extinguishers, because it's like you go, you do the education, you do the demonstration, and at the end of the day, they don't even have the means to even acquire these fire extinguishers. So when the fires occur, and those who are there to be able to see it firsthand, if they have access to these fire extinguishers, they'll be able to deal with the fires. But because of their situation, they are not. So the situation is that the local authorities should not even allow these slums to develop in the first place. Once they do not develop, they do not come up, these things will cease to be an albatross on our neck.
Right. The National Fire Service, we must give it to you for bravely responding to fire calls and also taking care, controlling the blazes and all. But we want to find out that anytime you are called, how quick is your response time to some of these fires?
We have always been educating Ghanaians that our response time depends on a number of factors, such as people not playing pranks with our emergency lines. When people seriously need our services and others are joking on the line, it denies genuine people access to our emergency service. That is one. And that our roads are very bad, especially some places. And if the road is bad, as an emergency vehicle, looking at the weight and the kind of accoutrement that it carries, we need to guarantee the safety of our men and even the equipment. And therefore, we cannot go a certain speed when the road is bad, and that affects our response time. Again, if somebody calls and he is in need of our services and then gives us wrong address to the emergency scene, definitely we will get lost, and that is going to waste a bit of time. And that we are also challenged when it comes to being present in every community in Ghana. And therefore, if a fire should occur in a community where we don't have a fire station with a functional fire engine, it means that the nearby fire station would have to be deployed. And if, let's say, the community had a fire engine that would have taken about maybe 5 minutes or less, the nearby fire engine coming from a distant place would take maybe 10 or more minutes to get there, and that affects our response time. But let me give you this shocking survey that was done by Ghana Statistical Service in 2012. They came out with this assertion that we were doing an average response time of 12 minutes. That's at 2012. But as I speak with you, per the current ratings that the survey that they've done, we are doing an average of 7 minutes. In most instances, we have responded within 5 minutes. I remember there was a market fire somewhere last year or so, a Shaman market. We responded within 3 minutes. Quite recently, there was one at Kumase Kwadasu market. We responded in 4 minutes. There was this one at Tamale market. We responded within 5 minutes. So we have done creditably well.
Okay.
When the fires occur and people call us on time, no matter the distance, we are making a response time of 9 minutes, even in the face of the numerous challenges that we have. So we will continue to appeal to individuals, philanthropists who have the wherewithal and then the fire service at heart. Now, management is even considering mobile fire stations. If you have a property that probably you want to lease out or you want to gift it to us, I mean, if you have a space where we can put these 40-footer containers and then create a place of convenience and then an office space fitted with air conditioners, why not? We would come and we'll be glad to operate from there. So Ghanaians should be proactive to come to our aid and to ensure that if possible, communities without fire station could buy rapid intervention vehicles, buy this mini pumpers, that is the fire pumpers for us, and then create a congenial atmosphere for us. Why not? We'll be glad to serve. We have the numbers, just that we need the support of everyone to augment government support to ensure that we deliver on our mandates in terms of responding to fires and related emergencies.
Thank you, sir. We are grateful for your time this morning.
I am grateful, but before I go, I want to be able to announce our emergency line so that in case of any emergency, we would want the public to call us early enough.
Okay.
And the number still remains 112192. Please let us stop pranking. Okay. And then ensure that this Christmas we gift our loved ones and even our enemies with smoke alarms and fire extinguishers to be able to protect their lives.
Okay, thank you so much. Divisional Officer Grade 3, Desmond Naka, who is the Deputy PRO of the Ghana National Fire Service. The number is 112192, and he says this Christmas gifts fire alarms and some fire extinguishers so that we'll have a fire-free Christmas. And that's all for our front story this morning on ABC in the Morning. Let's take a break. When we are back, Derek Kumiki Siedu will bring us the latest in sports, and Eric Melutrenebois will bring us some tech trick.
budget review with some key allocations.
We are currently here at Kamishi.
When the news breaks, we are there. In the heart of matters arising, we follow through with the right question. Don't miss a beat with our in-depth news analysis. From breaking news, special feature stories, latest news, we bring you the stories that matter. Our team of immersed reporters bring you the news as it happens. Join us every 6 a.m., 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. each day for a comprehensive look at the stories beyond the headlines.
Two to one.
You're watching ABC News GH.
ABC News GH, your trusted source for news.
This is where the headlines are probed. Policies scrutinized through an objective lens with an unbiased approach to every discussion. Key in to a series of pulsating conversations with the hard questions.
Why do you still want to run when you have failed?
I haven't. What do you mean?
Segment here on ABC in the morning. I am Derek Kumiki Siedu here at ABC News Ghana. We are your election poll center, your credible election guide. Now let's dive into the world of sports as Niger delivered a dominant performance to secure a resounding 4-0 victory over Sudan in a Group F clash of the African Cup of Nations AFCON qualifiers. Niger showcased their skill on Thursday, November 14, 2024 in Togo. The Daniel Sosa opened the scoring in the 6th minute, setting the tone for a commanding display. Yusuf Omaru doubled the lead in the 29th minute, bringing the score to 2-0 just before halftime. Sosa converted the penalty in added time, 45 plus 3 minutes, giving Niger a comfortable 3-0 advantage at the break. The frustration deepened for Sudan in the second half when Osanu Badamasi netted in the 51st minute, sealing the 4-0 route. This result breathed a new life into Ghana's qualification chances. Now, Black Stars head coach Otoado says the game between Ghana and Angola is a difficult one, but believes mentally his boys are ready and looking forward to the game. Ghana is set to take on Angola in a pivotal encounter today that could determine the fate of the team for the 2024 AFCON. Angola is heading in the game without a loss in the last 9 matches, whilst Ghana haven't scored in the last 2 matches. However, Coach Otoado is optimistic of the chance of the Black Stars as they take on Angolans at 7 p.m. today.
Yeah, these are difficult games. We can't take it for granted that they will play, let's say, 50% or so. I know that they will give 100%. It's going to be difficult. It's an away game. And it's going to be very, very tight, I know. But I think mentally the boys are ready. Looking forward for that game. It's time for our first victory in this competition, and I think it's a great chance to keep the chance alive.
Now let's do some Premier Leagues as Nations FC prepare to face Asante Kotoko in the match week 11 of the Ghana Premier League. Boss Kassim Mengo has issued a stern warning emphasizing his side's determination. The Abrekesi-based club will trade tackles with the Porcupine Warrior in a highly anticipated battle of the Ghana Premier League. We will put seniority aside on the field, Mengo said, referring to Kotoko's storied history. The team that plays better football with luck on their side will win. Nations FC, second in the table, aims to maintain momentum, whilst Kotoko seeks redemption after 3 consecutive losses. Speaking ahead of the crucial game, Kassim Mengo says his team will put aside every respect they have for Kotoko and focus solely on the game, which he described as tough. And now the Ghana Premier League continues this weekend with a lot at stake for clubs battling for supremacy and those fighting to avoid the drop. In Sotraman FC hosts Diana FC in Bono Derby to kick-start match day 11 on Saturday, November 16, 2024. The Sotra-based side will be eager to return to winning side after losing 3-0 at Nations FC at the weekend. They come up against an Diana side that are on a resurgence, setting the stage for an enthralling contest at the Nana Kramansan Park. Accra Lions FC will take on informed Heart of Lions at the University of Ghana in Saturday's other Premier League. Lions lost 2-1 at Basak Holy Stars and will be aiming to rewrite the script against Lyon at home. Heart of Lions jumped to third in the table after a solitary 1-0 win over Brecum Chelsea at home at the weekend. The remaining 7 matches take place across the country on Sunday, November 17, 2024. Asante Kotoko SC, who are without a win in their last 3 matches, host Nations FC in the Ashanti Derby at the Linklain Stadium in Obuasi on Sunday. The Porcupine Warriors must pull the Chestnut out of the blazing fire to overcome the most informed team in the Premier League so far. Nations, second in the table, are enjoying a fabulous run under Kassim Mengo, winning 5, drawing 4 and suffering just a defeat in 10 outings so far. Struggling Karela United welcomes Heart of Oak to the Aliu Mahama Stadium in Tamale on Sunday. Mediama SC welcome league leaders Gold Stars FC to the TNA Stadium in the Western Derby in Takwa on Sunday, eager to return the winning ways after a recent slump. Kickoff time is 3 p.m. local time. Brecum Chelsea returns to Golden City Park to battle Bechem United in another Bono Derby. Vision FC clash with Dreams FC in the Capital Derby, whilst FC Samatex 1996 remains at home for the second successive time to face off against Young Apostles FC at the Insasha Arena. Now, Legon Cities entertain Basak Holy Stars at home at the University of Ghana Stadium on Sunday, November 17. The Royals suffered heartbreak at FC Samatex 1996 after losing 1-0 in a stoppage time. That's it for the sports segment here on the ABC in the morning. For more sports updates, please follow our website at www.abcnewsgh.com. I am Derek Kumi Kisiedu.
Welcome to the Tech Trick segment on ABC in the morning. I am Eric Tunyobo. The weekend is upon us, so sit back. Let's discuss some exciting tech news here on ABC in the morning. Now, if you're a Samsung user or simply a fan of their phones, you might already be aware of the latest update. But if you're not, then that's where I come in here, okay? So let's get into it. So initially, Samsung provided up to 2 years of major operating system update and 3 years of security patches. Now, this policy was updated in 2020 to offer a 3 major OS update and a 4 year of security patches, starting with the Galaxy S20 series. Now, this improvement was subsequently extended to other flagship devices, including the Galaxy Note 20 and Z series. Later, Samsung raised a bar to 4 years of major on One UI software update and 5 years of security patches for Galaxy X, Note Z, X cover and Tab series device launched in 2019 or later. Now, starting in 2024, Samsung will surpass all other smartphones manufacturers by providing up to 7 years of support, which includes a major OS update and regular security patches. Now, this policy will apply to all flagship smartphones launched in 2024 or later. It means that Samsung is set to introduce the Galaxy S25 series next year, and with much anticipation, it will launch in late January 2025. Now, the S25 Trio will support 7 years of One UI software update as officially confirmed by Samsung. Now, Samsung's commitment not only extends the lifespan of Galaxy smartphones, but also ensures that your device remains up to date with the latest feature and security patches. However, now the real question a lot of people want to ask is, will this usually or activity of Galaxy use the Galaxy S25 patch as extended period? Well, from my own perspective, if you love the latest technology or if your work requires it, it means that you may have to choose upgrade before it's too long. But if you prioritize practicality over having the newest device, it means that Galaxy 25 could become a long-term companion for you. So it's important to note that smartphones' batteries can sometimes be degrading over time, but while Samsung software updates often include battery optimization, you might eventually need to consider replacing the battery if you want to keep your smartphone for a longer duration. So I think that's a good news for people who do love Samsung. I don't know about others. It's still about technology. So Samsung really is raising the bar. Maybe let's see how the competitiveness between Samsung and iPhones would be. But knowing that you can also keep your Galaxy S25 up to date for 7 years could also change how you view your smartphones. Okay, so the longevity really matters. So only time will tell. But for now, Samsung says that it's promising to be a game changer for users seeking an enduring tech solution. Well, we hope to see that in 2025. I'm Eric Tunyobo Melo, and that's it for Tech Trick. ABC in the Morning continues shortly after this.
This is where the headlines are probed. Policies scrutinized through an objective lens with an unbiased approach to every discussion. Key in to a series of pulsating conversations with the hard questions.
Why do you still want to run when you have failed?
I haven't. What do you mean by failed?
In-depth analysis of policy proposals.
If it is a temporary program, why do we want to still create another gold reserve exchange program also to address a temporary issue?
If you introduce a temporary measure and you realize that the temporary measure works and is sustainable, you have to rethink whether or not it should just be temporary.
And every agenda and positions intellectually debated to set the record straight.
Look, you've still not answered the question now. Good. Question is, if Article 78(1) is anything to go by, your ministers of state largely are supposed to come from the parliament.
Yes.
The law says that not less than 10 and not more than 19. So these are your cabinet, your ministers of state you're going to get. How do you intend to resolve? Have you thought about managing that hurdle?
Absolutely. If I hadn't, I probably would not get on the fray to do this.
On Focus on ABC, we focus on the matter, the personality, and the answer beyond the rhetoric. Focus on ABC shows every Thursday at 7 p.m. only on ABC News Ghana television.
Mid-year budget review with some key allocations.
We are currently here at Kaneshie.
When the news breaks, we are there. In the heart of matters arising, we follow through with the right question. Don't miss a beat with our in-depth news analysis. From breaking news, special feature stories, latest news, we bring you the stories that matter. Our team of immersed reporters bring you the news as it happens. Join us every 6 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. each day for a comprehensive look at the stories beyond the headlines.
Two to one.
You're watching ABC News GH.
ABC News GH, your trusted source for news.
You're welcome back to ABC in the morning, live on ABC News GH. Up next is Ghana Speaks.
Times are hard in Ghana, extremely hard.
As we gear towards the 2024 general elections, there have been conversations around having a presidential debate. Will it happen or not? This is Ghana Speaks.
Today on Ghana Speaks, we're opening the phone line, so you can call us on 053-916-1609, 053-916-1609. And what question are we asking you? We're asking you about the Supreme Court's verdict. Yesterday, 109 pages of the Supreme Court's verdict about overturning Speaker's ruling in Parliament, Speaker's declaration in Parliament. And the Supreme Court provided a comprehensive breakdown of the reasons behind the decision to uphold the suit by Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin. And according to the Supreme Court, a member of Parliament can only be considered to have vacated their seat if they change their political identity and remain in Parliament under the new identity. In a judgment backing the suit brought by the Majority Leader, the court clarified that Articles 97, Clause 1, Subclause G and H of the Constitution are applicable only to the current term of Parliament. These provisions do not apply to future terms, such as when an MP contests elections under a different political affiliation. The court emphasized that an MP seat is vacated if they switch parties within Parliament while continuing to serve as a member of the new Parliament. In the same judgment, two of the justices who dissented were of the view that an independent MP who joins a political party will have to vacate the seat originally held as an independent member. So this is what yesterday the Supreme Court's verdict sought to explain to Ghanaians. If you have heard about that, if you have had the opportunity to read it, we are asking you to call us 053-916-1609. Tell us if this verdict has finally explained things to you. Do you understand it now? Are you okay about everything that has happened? Has this brought any finality to you and in your minds? Call us on 053-916-1609, 053-916-1609. In the next 5 minutes, let's have that conversation. The next 5 minutes, tell us if the ruling is sound in your mind. Now, do you understand things? Are you okay with the ruling? Call us and tell us. Good morning, your name and where you're calling from.
Amanyakwa.
Amanyakwa, where are you calling from, Mama?
Kasra.
Okay. Ama, the Supreme Court's verdict, are you clear about it now? Do you understand everything now?
Yes, yes.
And you agree with the Supreme Court?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Ama.
Yes.
So that's Amanyakwa from Kaswa. She says she understands the verdict by the Supreme Court and she agrees with it. Also call us. Let us know what you think about the Supreme Court's verdict. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you are calling from. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Please, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Morning.
Good morning. Okay, call us 053-916-1609. When you call us, turn down the volume of your TV set so that you can hear us. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you are calling from? Hello? Your line is quite unclear, sir. Okay. You can call. Good morning. Your name and where you are calling from?
I'm calling from Koforidua.
And what's your name, sir?
Daniel.
Daniel, do you understand the Supreme Court's verdict?
Yes, but it goes contrary to what the Parliament is saying, and I don't agree with them.
So you don't agree with the Supreme Court?
Yes, it's clear. If you switch to a different political party, definitely you are out of the race. So I think there's a fishy deal at the Supreme Court then.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel.
So
that's Daniel from Koforidia. He doesn't agree with the Supreme Court's verdict at all. You can also call us. Let's hear from you. 053-916-1609. 053. Good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning. My name is Sadi Sansom. I'm calling from Saheli Group.
Okay. What do you make of the Supreme Court's verdict?
Once again, in fact, I disagree with the verdict because the Article 97 that they are claiming is clear. Even a JHS student can read and understand. And so if we are saying that the Supreme Court, when they say something is final, then who check the Supreme Court when they go wrong? And so this article, they are bringing back what happened in 1979, where people can just get up from their political party and join another political party. That is what they are bringing about. So the framers of the Constitution saw that, and they brought this so that they can stop those who move from political parties to another. But the case that the Supreme Court has said you can only vacate your seat when you join a different political party and still remain in Parliament. And so Ghana, where are you going? Politically, you have enough allowance to enter, even within the judicial system. So it's something that you should look at. The freedom of the Constitution are still alive. They saw that and they brought that clause in. And so I disagree with the verdict of the judges. That is why two of the experienced judges dissented to that decision. And even it's not within their jurisdiction to have even heard that particular case.
Okay. Thank you for calling. So that's his opinion on the verdicts by the Supreme Court. You too call us on 053-916-1609 and tell us your opinion on the verdict of the Supreme Court. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Soto Junior and I'm calling from Accra.
Okay. What's your reaction to the Supreme Court's verdict?
Oh, I think it's okay. Anything is okay there.
And you understand it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for calling. We'll take our last caller for this segment. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you are calling from? Please turn down the volume of your TV set so that we can both hear each other. Okay, let's take another call and then we'll end it. On the Supreme Court, what are your reactions to the Supreme Court's verdict? A 109-page verdict. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from? Hello?
Hello?
What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm passing to who?
Okay.
My name is...
Okay. We seem to have lost this caller too, but we were taking your reactions on the Supreme Court's verdict, that 109-page verdict. I know that when you get the time, you would also read it and abreast yourself with what the Supreme Court is saying. So at the moment, the NPP is majority in Parliament. And that's all for Ghana Speaks today on ABC in the morning. Up next is Business Fix. welcome back. Today on Business Fix, we are looking at what it takes to start a business in Ghana. Remember yesterday we asked you to call in and you told us how much you would need to start a certain business. Today we'll find out from an expert and a professional on what it takes. Ghana is ranked as one of the best places to do business in Africa, and according to the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report, Ghana is recognized as the most resilient economy in West Africa. That report, the World Bank's EY's Africa Attractiveness Report of 2018 said so. Starting a business in Ghana involves a combination of some factors like legal, financial, and practical steps to ensure compliance with local regulations and establish a solid foundation for your growth. Access to capital is a key challenge in starting a business, unfortunately, with many entrepreneurs relying on personal savings, loans, or investors to fund their ventures. Our government, the Ghanaian government, has implemented several policies and initiatives to foster entrepreneurship and create an enabling environment for startups and support business growth. Is that working as well as we want it? These policies are aimed at encouraging innovation and providing the resources necessary for businesses to thrive. For long-term success, entrepreneurs must understand the local market, develop a solid business plan, and build a strong network of suppliers, customers, and partners. Additionally, you need to be prepared to navigate the challenges. All of these challenges, all of these policies and programs are the reason why this morning we are speaking with the CEO of Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, for a conversation on what it takes to start a business in Ghana. Hello, Mr. Jackson. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you too, and good morning to all your listeners and your viewers. It's a pleasure to be on your station.
It's a pleasure to have you too, sir. We're looking at what it takes to start a business in Ghana. First off, what are the most common challenges entrepreneurs face when starting a business in this country?
Oh, like you said, one of the more common challenges that cuts across, and when I say cuts across, whether you're starting a small business selling on a tabletop outside your house, or you're setting up a business, online, or you're setting up a business to produce something in a factory. The first thing is money, the capital to start your business. That's always a big problem.
Okay. How can businesses overcome this challenge? Because yesterday we opened the phone lines. We asked people to call in. This person said, if I had some 3,000, I would be able to start a small foodstuff business on a tabletop in front of my house. Another said that if you gave me 700 cedis, I would be able to start. Regardless, no matter how small or big it is, it always seems that getting that money to kickstart the process is a challenge. How can we overcome these challenges in this economic climate we find ourselves in as Ghanaians?
First of all, it's important to realize that as a small business, especially in this climate, no financial institution is going to give you money.
So what then will that small business have to rely on if no financial...
You rely on what we call friends and family. That's the only place to go. And there's a reason why you rely on friends and family.
Okay.
Those are the people who know you. Those are the people who can trust you. Those are the people who can believe you, because think about it. If you come to a financial institution, how are you going to prove that if I give you 5,000 cedis or 1,000 cedis, you will pay back? How are you going to prove that you are not just going to turn around and literally chop the money, bet with the money, spend the money on some frivolous thing, or give up after a few days or after the first hurdle? So the people who know you, who trust you, who can hold you accountable are your friends and family. And that's why the first place you go in order to find money as a small business or a micro business is friends and family.
Okay.
That hasn't changed.
All right. We'll do well to pay attention to that when we want some money to start our businesses. But let's look at market research. It looks like in Ghana, when someone starts one business and it is thriving, almost everybody in that sphere now wants to also get into that business. How important is market research for looking for a business to enter into the Ghanaian market? And what are the key factors to consider?
Okay, but before I tackle market research, I want to talk a little bit more about the money.
All right, sir.
You will find that in a lot of situations, the entrepreneur, the small business owner, the micro business owner needs far less money than they think. And that half the time, they are thinking, I need this, I need that, I need this to be able to start a business. In truth, when you sit down carefully, when you look at what you need to do, invariably, and a lot of people come across my desk, invariably you may not need as much money as you think. And in a lot of ways, having too much money is as bad as having too little money. So the first thing I'll say to anybody trying to start a business is, you say you need 5,000 cedis. Let's sit down. Let's go each item one by one and be clear as to why you need that money and why it has to be 5,000 and not 3,000 and not 4,000 or even 2,500.
Okay. So then I want to come back to the need for market research in our economic climate. Why we need to do some market research so that we are not just bandwagoning.
Okay, now listen. The best business is a business where you are literally the only person who is offering that solution. And so copying somebody else's business doesn't necessarily work unless you are going to sell in a different area to a different set of people. If you're only copying to sell to the same set of people, it will be a tough sell. So when we talk about market research, sometimes it's not even as complicated as you think. You want to set up a barber shop, that's fine. Go around and look at how many barber shops are in your area. And let us all agree that there's a need for a new barber shop. Or if you say, no, I want to set up a barber shop for a different set of people. I want to set up a salon for a different set of people. People who are a bit more richer, a bit richer, people who are poorer, it doesn't really matter. But make sure that even if it is as simple as walking around your catchment area, to make sure that there are not too many of the businesses that you want to set up that are available, it will be a good thing.
Okay.
Otherwise, then there's no real reason for me to choose you over somebody else. It's also important to realize that even when you are setting up your business online, so that in essence, your catchment area is much bigger, you've got to look at how many more people are selling the exact same things that I want to sell. And why would somebody go online, see my product, and choose it over the other product? So market research is thinking through the business, thinking through who's going to buy, thinking through your catchment area, and thinking through what will make you different. You want to sell wache. What will make someone buy your wache other than somebody else's wache? You want to sell, create a new product and sell it online. Why would I look at your Instagram page and choose you over somebody else? And those are what I will call making sure that you've done your research.
Okay. Can you share with us some practical strategies for securing funding or investment for a new business in Ghana? A business is trying to break into the market to do some good. What are the strategies they can use to secure funding or investment?
Well, like I said, first of all, look to friends and family.
Beyond my friends and family?
In this environment, it's going to be extremely tough. There are very, very few avenues for funding a new business. I wouldn't like to lie to you. I wouldn't like to say to you, go and write a business plan or go and write a project proposal.
Okay, but
I don't know anybody who will be prepared to fund a new business unless nobody. I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay, but in your experience, share with us some traits or skills that make for a successful business owner or a successful business leader in our evolving economic landscape.
I tell you what, the more passionate you are about what you want to do, the more knowledge you have about what you want to do, the more research you have done about what you want to do, the more experience you have in the area that you want to go to. That is how you become convincing. And so, if you want to do something, you are not passionate about it, you don't even know about it, you haven't gone to read about it, you haven't gone to ask questions about it, you are not going to convince anybody, even your immediate family and friends. Nobody is going to be convinced about it. The only way you can convince somebody is that everybody know you live this issue, you understand this issue, you've done your research, you've done your homework. So it is about being passionate about what you want to do. And sometimes it's very little things and big things. I tell somebody that I go online and I buy a lot of things online. Right? And I go online and somebody says, I've put a product that they are selling on gg.com. And you call the person and you say, I saw this product. Hello?
Yes, sir, I'm here listening to you.
Okay. No, I'm demonstrating what they do. They will say, you call the person and instead of an enthusiastic, hello, you want this, which type, how do you want it? What do you want it? What's your size? What's your specification? What are you going to use it for? Go like, hello? Okay. All right. Are you on WhatsApp? I mean, there's such demonstrable lack of passion. So why would you patronize their business? Why would you give them money? It is only passion. We can't know what is in your head. It is the passion you demonstrate that would convince us to give you money.
All right. It's the passion you demonstrate that will convince us to give you money. We are grateful for your time this morning, Mr. Joe Jackson.
Thank you, too.
Joe Jackson have a lovely day too, sir. Joe Jackson is the CEO of Daylex Finance. And what does it take to start a business in Ghana? He says honestly, to start a business, it will be difficult to find funding outside of your friends and family. So you should be looking within to find funding before you start a business. And beyond that, your passion is what will drive your business. If you are passionate about it, you will be convincing and be able to sell your business. These are some of the things it takes to start a business in Ghana. That's all for Business Fix. Let's take a break. We will be back.
This is where the headlines are probed, policies scrutinized through an objective lens with an unbiased approach to every discussion. Key in to a series of pulsating conversations with the hard questions.
Why do you still want to run when you have failed?
I haven't. What do you mean by failed?
In-depth analysis of policy proposals.
If it is a temporary program, why do we want to still create another gold reserve exchange program also to address a temporary issue?
If you introduce a temporary measure and you realize that the temporary measure works and is sustainable, you have to rethink whether or not it should just be temporary.
And every agenda and positions intellectually debated to set the record straight.
Look, you still don't answer the question now.
Go on.
Question is, if Article 78(1) is anything to go by, your ministers of state largely are supposed to come from the parliament.
Yes.
The law says that not less than 10 and not more than 19. So these are your cabinet, your ministers of state you're going to get. How do you intend to resolve? Have you thought about managing that header?
Absolutely. If I hadn't, I probably would not get on the fray to do this.
On Focus on ABC, we focus on the matter, the personality, and the answer.
Welcome back to ABC in the morning. I hope your Friday is going well so far. Let's head straight into our main discussion for today. Yesterday, the Supreme Court gave a verdict. What was in the verdict? It says that an MP seat can only be vacated when they switch political parties in Parliament. And the Supreme Court has provided a detailed explanation for its decision to uphold the suit that was brought in by Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin. And according to the Apex Court of the Land, a member of Parliament is deemed to have vacated their seat if they change their political affiliation and continue to serve in Parliament under a new party identity. This ruling supports the suit filed by the Majority Leader, clarifying that the relevant constitutional provisions apply only within the current term of Parliament. The court specified that Articles 97 Clause 1, Subclause G and H of the Constitution do not extend to future parliamentary terms, such as when an MP runs for election under a different political party in subsequent elections. And the Supreme Court emphasized They emphasized that an MP seat must be vacated if they switch parties while holding office within the same parliamentary term. In other words, changing political affiliation during a parliamentary term while remaining in parliament will lead to the loss of their seat. The judgment also addressed the situation for independent MPs, making it clear that if an independent MP joins a political party while serving their current term, they must vacate their seat. The ruling elaborated that the constitutional provisions should be viewed in the context of the existence of the parliament, the existing term of the parliament. They do not intend to regulate future candidacies or the electoral ambitions of MPs who may wish to contest under different political parties in the future. Additionally, the ruling clarified that the constitutional articles in question are not concerned with future elections. They strictly pertain to the current period in which an MP holds their seats and make no provisions for future electoral scenarios. The Supreme Court's decision firmly defines the circumstances under which an MP must vacate their seats, focusing exclusively on changes in political affiliation within the same parliamentary term. So it was a 109-page document, really huge paged document. Let's take a look at some excerpts of the verdict as we've broken it down for your attention. This is the verdict of the Supreme Court on vacant seats. Under jurisdiction, to the extent that the exclusive preserve to settle a matter of interpretation under Article 2, Clause 1 and Article 130, Clause 1 and Clause 2 lies with the Supreme Court, it is incumbent on this court to exercise jurisdiction and resolve the interpretation for the application of the High Courts. So in this case, the Supreme Court is saying that indeed they have the jurisdiction to interpret this provision under the Constitution, contrary to what many were saying, that it didn't lie within the preserve of the Supreme Court to interpret this. So this is what the Supreme Court has said under interpretation of the provision, Article 97 of the Constitution. They went on and on and on to say more about this. We'll have conversations with a constitutional lawyer and also with a parliamentary watcher to understand some of these things. Let's speak with Sami Obeng. He is the Executive Director for Parliamentary Network Africa on this conversation. Hello, Sami. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Yes. Sami, have you read the ruling? We believe you have.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have scanned through. It's tough to comprehensively absorb 109 pages in just a matter of hours, but at least I have a fair idea of what it is.
Yeah, with your fair idea and as a parliamentary watcher, looking at things that happen in Parliament, what will be your general overview of what you have read so far?
Well, without going into the legalese of it, because I may not be as competent with that as, constitutional lawyers and experts may be, a few preliminary observations are that we have always had the challenge of the true and proper interpretation of Article 97, 1G and H, and so having the Supreme Court, which is the court that is mandated to provide interpretation to constitutional provisions, give clearer indications of what their take is on what the court's take is on those provisions, for me has a long-term effect of providing clarity on how these matters can be dealt with in the future. And that is important. For me, it was one of the reasons why we supported the intentions by the plaintiffs to go to court. we have always maintained that this should have probably been done in 2020 after the what we describe as the bizarre ruling of Speaker Okoye in that particular instance, which became a basis for an even more bizarre indication by Speaker Babin in this particular instance. So in 2020, we probably should have done the court for an interpretation of these provisions so that we will not come to this situation every 4 years or every election year. So it's great that the Supreme Court has provided some interpretation in this particular regard. How these apply to the circumstances in Parliament at the moment, or how these would reflect in what Parliament does between now and January 6th, still remains very unclear, because there are so many angles that could come to bear with the current ruling, especially also seeing that elections is just around the corner. And for me, that is where the meat of the parliamentary angle to all of this lies.
Okay. The Supreme Court held that Parliament is no longer a closed book. What do you make of that?
Well, you see, it's important to be able to put some of these jurisprudence issues into perspective. You know, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary are all, you know, co-equal branches of government who have their mandates clearly defined by law, and the world over, it is tidy to ensure that each arm of government does not encroach into the spaces of the other arm. And this is something that, you know, in almost all jurisdictions where the concept of separation of powers is respected, they take very much into consideration. Ghana, as a country, has had a jurisprudence where, you know, the courts have maintained, you know, that the things that happens in Parliament, you know, should not be unnecessarily, you know, brought for debate outside of Parliament, so to speak, so long as it is in accordance with the Constitution, because the Constitution reigns supreme in all of these. And so I'm not too sure whether in the Supreme Court indication about it not being a closed book, they meant that, you know, all of these previous well-known rulings and positions that same court has held in the past now comes to naught, you know, and perhaps, like I said, maybe the constitutional and legal experts may help us to better understand the implications of those wordings, except to say that it is a well-known, globally accepted international best practice to have the various arms of government stay clear of the inner workings of the other arms of government, insofar as it is not in violation of, you know, the existing rules and regulations.
Okay. But you mentioned about how Parliament's proceedings may go. The NDC have said that they will not be coming back to Parliament again. What do you make of what they say? Do you think, for want of a better word, would you say that they are being in their feelings about what has happened?
Well, I think I heard some members in various media interviews talk about the difficulty in coming back to Parliament before elections. And yes, I agree that it is almost practically impossible to summon Parliament before elections. We are 3 weeks before elections, and we know how the 2024 elections will be as much of the parliamentary elections as it will be of the presidential elections. And each member of Parliament that has the mandate of their respective political parties, as well as the parties themselves, will be doing whatever it takes to be able to win as many seats as possible, you know, in the parliamentary elections. And with 3 weeks to an election, we do not expect that sitting members of Parliament will give chances by wanting to, you know, suspend their physical presence in their constituencies for campaign in the name of being in the national capital, thereby giving their opponents chances over them. And so this is not just about the NDC members of parliament, it's also about the NPP members of parliament, incumbents who are contesting, their respective seats. And that is why I say that with 3 weeks to an election, it becomes practically impossible to expect a functional, attendance to parliament. Bearing in mind also that parliament, but for these recent occurrences, parliament was meant to go on recess around this week, right, towards the election. And so they themselves acknowledge, right from the time of developing their calendar, that, it makes for practical impossibility to have the House sitting still beyond this week. But the good thing is that the tenure of this current parliament does not expire until the midnight of January 6th, which means that after elections on 7th December, there is still 1 full month to be able to transact so much parliamentary business. And if Parliament is so minded, they can be able to do so much work within that particular period and still be able to achieve results.
Okay. The court stated that Speaker had no jurisdiction in the first place to make such a declaration. Knowing the Speaker, how do you expect him to take this?
Well, remember that we are all subject to the courts and their rulings, and the Speaker is someone who is a respecter of the law, a practitioner himself, a lawmaker par excellence. I do not expect that he would do anything that the law frowns on. Of course, there are options that are open to Parliament and to the Speaker and to various parties to suits like this, in that there is still an opening for a review of all or portions of the rulings of the Supreme Court. So that's an avenue available if there is a disagreement on a particular subject matter. But insofar as there is no disagreement on a matter and the processes that exist are not triggered, I really do not see any reason why the various outcomes of this particular Supreme Court ruling will not be adhered to.
So, one question I want to ask you is how we will safeguard the independence and the integrity of Parliament in this case where the Supreme Court says Parliament is not a closed book.
Like I said, we may have to look at this in conjunction with, what has been the position of the courts in the past, and whether this comes to literally erase that particular position all these while. But in safeguarding the independence of Parliament, we have no option than to do that. And you see, it starts with the internal players themselves, the members of Parliament, the Speaker, the parliamentary service, in that members of Parliament should move away from situations where practices that encroaches on the independence, the powers and integrity of Parliament get celebrated by them because it favors their parochial partisan interest. Because when they do that, it weakens the institution of Parliament overall, for which they are integral players. And that would, in the future, come back to haunt them. So for example, His Excellency the President has for many weeks now refused to accept transmission of bills that are meant to be taken to his office for accent, and not giving the reasons why he's even not interested in signing this as per the Constitution. However, some people are celebrating it because it is their party in power, not bearing in mind how this has major implications on the private members' bills regime, for the future. So things like this must not be issues that should be laced with or viewed with partisan lenses, but it should be looked at from the angle of strengthening the institution of Parliament as a co-equal branch of government that is not subservient to the other branches of government. And Parliament, as an institution, has a major responsibility in ensuring that all of us as citizens and individuals also do, because you see, Parliament is the house of the people. It is our house. And if our house, which is the place where we have sent representatives to stand in our stead, gets messed up by some of these acts, then we will be essentially losing our power as citizens and our ability to ensure that the people that are working for us, the executive branch of government, are overseen properly. So it's our collective interest to ensure that things such as these are not perpetuated to limit the power and authority of Parliament as is globally accepted.
The court also held that the intention to contest is for future elections and not for the current Parliament. Once this verdict by the court open the door for MPs to just intend to contest in future elections when they know their seats won't be vacated, won't we be opening the floodgates for some of these things?
Well, every decision has its own implications. Yes, I am of the school of thought that, such a filing of nominations to contest in future elections relates to what the Supreme Court has said, and that it does not specifically point to the current Parliament as per my reading and understanding of Article 97(1)(g). However, I am a bit worried about how this applies particularly for Article 97(1)(h), where a member of Parliament elected as an independent, like in the case of the second deputy speaker, who now has filed nominations to contest as a member of the New Patriotic Party. How anybody can convince me that in this current parliamentary period, he's not still a member of the NPP, because he certainly should be a member of that particular political party to be able to file his papers to contest on behalf of the particular political party in the future. And so I am still, reading the ruling and perusing it more thoroughly, but I honestly believe that the same brush should not be applied for instances of a representative of a political party, a representative of a political party who is changing their party affiliation or wanting to stand as an independent, as compared to one who is already an independent and wanting to contest the next election on the ticket of another party, for which reason by the time he filed his nomination, he certainly would have joined that new political party. And if you read 97(1)(g) and (h) together, I personally am of the opinion that those two issues should not be mixed up. Okay. I'm quite concerned that so far, per my reading, I've not seen the courts separate those two instances. But I still look forward to digging deeper into the ruling.
By the time you have dug deeper into the ruling, do you expect that the verdict settles the dust on the controversy and even beyond this Parliament?
Well, it would address the issue to some extent. As to whether it settles the dust completely, I'm not too sure about that. Especially also as even the Supreme Court itself, had two justices providing some very interesting angles for why they have dissented on that particular position of the court. And so there are many unfolding angles to it. And in the coming days, I'm sure we'll be able to better answer the question of whether this settles the dust or it's rather opens a can of worms going into the future.
Sami, the last time we spoke with you, you spoke about how distinct this Parliament is. The numbers are peace and all. We are going into the next election now. Many persons have said that in the next election, we need to have a decisive majority in Parliament, regardless. Either of the political parties must come strong with a decisive majority when the next Parliament is convened. What do you think about that? Do you believe, or do you belong to the school of thought that believes that in the next Parliament, if we have another hung Parliament, it will be good for our democracy? Or you would lend credence to what they are saying, that the next majority must be a very decisive and a large one?
A Parliament must be what the people want it to be and what the people vote it to be. And for me, I stand with the verdict of the people so far as the constitution of parliament or the composition of parliament is concerned. Parliaments are a representation of the people. It's the people's assembly, and so if the people feel that at a particular point in our democratic history, we want a parliament that has an absolute majority, a simple majority. We want a hung parliament, or we want an opposition run parliament. They must be free to determine that, and that should be informing our electoral decisions.
That should be informing. Okay, we have just barely a few days to the elections. When you look at all of the things happening, the campaigning and all the positioning of the various political parties and even the MPs, the parliamentary candidates, for instance, what would you say if you project the elections should look like?
Well, we all anticipate a peaceful election. We wish that it would be free, fair, transparent. There will be great transition, whether it's from one political party to another, or a political party to itself, or to an independent, whichever way. It will be a smooth transition. We certainly know that the people of Ghana are becoming more sophisticated, are becoming wiser electorally, and are making their choices on more grounded issues than it probably would have been in the past. For which reason, certainly non-performing representatives could be punished through this election. Those who are performing well could be rewarded through these elections. And if you take a look at what happened in the elections of 2020 and the dynamics that we have today, it is very, very it's not easy to predict what the outcome of the next parliament will be. But whatever it is, or whatever it becomes, will certainly represent the supreme will of the people of Ghana, and that must be respected.
Right. Thank you, Sammy. We are grateful for your time this morning.
My pleasure.
Sammy Obeng is the Executive Director for Parliamentary Network Africa. A parliament is what the people want it to be, whether it is an absolute majority, a simple majority, or even a hung parliament, or a parliament that is run by the opposition. It is what the people want it to be. Let's continue with some of the excerpts from the verdict of the Supreme Court. And it is our view that given the legal evolution necessary for a ruling of the nature delivered by the first defendant on the 17th October 2024, it is the High Court which is constitutionally empowered to make such a declaration pursuant to Article 99 and definitely not the first defendant. And the Supreme Court is saying this under jurisdiction. To the extent, therefore, that the first defendant involved himself in a fact-finding and legal determination of what constitutes a party switch that formed the foundation for declaring that the MPs should leave their seats in Parliament. We hold that his actions constituted a grievous and veritable step of constitutional authority, warranting this court's interventions by way of interpretation and enforcement of constitutional boundaries. The Supreme Court had this to say in the verdicts. Let's go back for more conversations. Dr. Abbas Mohammed, political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, joins us for another conversation. Good morning, Dr. Abbas. Thank you for your time once again.
Good morning to you and to your listeners as well.
After our conversation yesterday, the Supreme Court released its 109-page verdict on what it determined on the declaration of the vacant seats in Parliament. It has explained its reasoning, and the ruling has stated that in essence, Parliament or any other body is not insulated from the Constitution. The question is that what becomes of separation of powers? Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you very much. This particular point, I think in our earlier conversation, I have made it very clear. No any institution in the country is actually, as they put it as insulated, but it's above the Constitution. Every institution in this country is subjected to the Constitution. What we are practicing is constitutional supremacy, and not executive supremacy, not judicial supremacy, not legislative supremacy. It's constitutional supremacy. And so exactly, this is what we have seen. And for me, as people have said, and I agree with them, this is victory for democracy. Because the foremost, when it comes to democracy, is the rule of law. Everything or everyone being subjected to the laws of the nation. This case, as it happened, we saw the role that the Supreme Court played. In a very sequential manner, they stayed execution and then set a date to pass a ruling, go into the matter itself, and then pass their ruling, which has just happened. And then also they said, they told us that they will be giving us all this adequate or detailed reasoning, which they have done. So I think we must commend the court and also see the rule of law working. And we must allow that to be our ways of doing things. Because that is the only way that we can proceed in an orderly, peaceful, and if you like, very progressive manner.
How do you envisage this ruling playing out in the next parliament and in the next government?
Yeah, I think it is a landmark ruling. It is a landmark ruling in the sense that we've had several things that happened in the past. Precedents, as they say. I remember when the Speaker passed his ruling, which brought about all of these, he quoted precedents as one of his sources. And then he quoted the Constitution, and then he quoted parliamentary standing orders. Now what we have seen is a step forward, an enlightenment, if I should put it that way, for all of us, including Mr. Speaker himself. And especially, as you said, 109 pages of detailed, well-thought reasoning and evidence and argument. I think this is a whole book, okay, that is going to add up to our knowledge of our democracy, which is good. So next parliament, I think, is going to really be informed by what we learn from all these things that actually has happened, the errors we have committed in the past, thinking that they were the right things. Now we have the opportunity to correct these errors. So which goes to, for me, if we are going to go by these lessons, it's going to bring about sanity in next parliament. It's going to bring about some clarity, some order, which I must say actually has been lacking in our parliament. Up to now, it has been argued clearly that parliament is the weakest link when it comes to these three arms of government, which is very true. But I didn't see the judiciary playing a role or as a factor in what has made the parliament the weakest link. It is the executive, through its majority in parliament, and then the speakers, how they conduct the activities of parliament, trying to outwit all others and have things their way, or have it the way they like it. So these things that have happened now, I think is going to inform next parliament so that we will have some order and eventually parliament also becoming as strong as it is supposed to be.
What should this that has happened, what should this controversy tell political parties ahead of the elections? All of the conversations we've had in the past 1 month, up and back and forth about constitution and parliamentary workings, what should it tell our political parties as we head into the elections?
Yeah, you have the right to your opinion, what you think, and how you think things should unfold or things should go. Everybody has that right, and that is what democracy is about. So political parties might have their own view, Politicians might have their own view, or supporters on all else, and it is good. We should express these views. Right of expression is granted by the Constitution. We should express it, but we should know that these are views and not a final say on the issues that we have. The Constitution has created for us an avenue where all these views, if you like, disagreement, digressions, or issues, whatever it is, could be sent, to be tested and be addressed. Okay, so yes, all of these controversies and this, they are not necessary when it comes to trying to find a solution to it. The court is there. The court is our protector. In fact, these two institutions, they can bully us, the executive and the legislature, and they have been doing it. They have been bullying us, and the judiciary is what we have to actually protect us and redress whatever decisions or actions that are not in our interest. So all of this, what it tells us is that, yes, we can have all these controversies or these disagreements, but finally, if we want our democracy to work, we must support the judiciary. We must send every case, no matter what it is, and then we must also do our best to support the judiciary in the whatever duty or functions that has been assigned to it. The good thing about the judiciary is that if you don't agree, you can appeal, and you can appeal as many times as is possible. And so I think going forward, we should look forward to towards that direction more than any other direction.
Dr. Baz, we are joined by lawyer Yaw Danquah, who is a private legal practitioner and a constitutional lawyer. Lawyer Danquah, you are welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll be having this conversation with both of you. So, Dr. Baz, let me go to Lawyer Danquah real quick and then come back to you on our conversation.
All right.
Lawyer Danquah, the last time we spoke, you said that no parliament can make a decision for another parliament. So the current parliament can't make a decision that should be binding on the next parliament. We see that in the verdict of the Supreme Court. What also do you make of all of the explanations that the ruling gives?
Well, I think that the ruling actually explains the Constitution in its most simpler form for lay people and ordinary citizens who are not so much abreast with the language of the Constitution to very much understand what the Constitution says in this regard. I mean, like you rightly said, when we last spoke, I told you that no parliament can make any decision that will affect a future parliament. And the Constitution doesn't make any provision for that. And the Speaker cannot interpret the Constitution. In fact, the Speaker cannot even interpret their own laws, in Parliament, except for the courts that can interpret whatever they have said or laid down. So the ruling gives clarity, and the ruling saves our Constitution, and the ruling brings some sort of sanctity into our constitutional provisions in Ghana. I'm so grateful for the for the ruling and the outcome of it, and all along for some of us who are a bit more interested in the Ghanaian Constitution, or who tends to deal with a lot more with the Constitution. It doesn't come as a surprise to us at all.
Okay, the justices in their ruling asserted that in our present constitutional dispensation, the notion that the processes of parliament constitute a closed book has been determined not to be an inflexible rule of thumb. What then becomes of the famous Tufo versus Attorney General, where the court stayed out of parliamentary proceedings?
Right. Okay. If you notice when this came, some of us were a bit skeptical about the attitude that the Attorney General actually took. As much as the ruling yesterday was a very sound one, and the Supreme Court did their duty as mandated by the Constitution and owing allegiance to the people of Ghana, interpreting the constitution for the people of Ghana, that we appreciate. I'm a bit critical about them when it comes to other matters which borders on constitutionality, and they tend to keep a blind eye. So of course yesterday was a victory lap for them, but there's a question mark about how do they deal with other matters moving forward. And that, things like the LGBTQ bill, which is being held and nobody's talking about it, and that's a constitutional matter, and that is the Supreme Court also have to deal with it. But it looks as if that is joining the back queue, and that, when this happens, that is when people becomes a bit agitated, and then these two standards and what do you call it? I won't say nepotism, but then hypocrisy actually sets in. So if with the expediency that they've given this ruling, they should do the same with the matter that is before them in respect of the LGBTQ Act.
Okay. Let me read what the Speaker's lawyer, Thaddeus Sori, said after the ruling, the verdict. He says that the Supreme Court's decision released this afternoon is interesting. The majority decision raises a number of legal issues. Since this is a public and not legal platform, I will discuss the most basic but fundamental issue for debate. In every case before the court's final judgment is based on the case presented to the court contained in the original papers filed by the plaintiff before the court. If the facts on which the plaintiff initially presented their case to the court changes, and they want the court's decision to reflect the changed circumstance, they must formally change the original case by way of an amendment. The Supreme Court rules allow the plaintiff to amend their case. In what he says a lot about it, about changes and all for the regular Ghanaian, for the regular Ghanaian, what should we make of what he is saying about the ruling?
I don't entirely agree with him on what he said. Now, let me explain this to you. The Supreme Court is the apex court, is the highest court of the land, right? And nobody can overrule its decisions. The Supreme Court itself doesn't overrule its own decision, but it tends to depart from its decisions if it feels that the situation presented to them calls for a different sort of a ruling or a different sort of eyes. It will depart from its previous decision. But it doesn't overrule its own decision. But the Supreme Court can overrule a decision of the Court of Appeal, High Court, all the way down to the Magistrates Court. Are you with me?
Yes.
Now, and the powers that the Supreme Court has is that when a matter comes before it, and there is a matter of public interest, which they can relate, which is directly related, but it may not have been the main pleadings of the in the parties either rates or documents that is before them. Nothing stops the Supreme Court by addressing those issues and to bring clarity for everyone to know that in this situation, this is the way you need to apply the law. So what Sori is saying is not entirely true at all. Well, it will be true when it comes to matters before the higher court, circuit court, higher court, the lower court, or even the higher court, the high court, right? But not when it comes to the Supreme Court.
He also says that there's no order saying that the MPs must be allowed in Parliament, or order directing that Parliament recognize the said MPs as earlier ordered by the court containing the majority decision of the court.
Now,
for the regular Ghanaian.
Okay, in that case, which order also gives the Speaker of Parliament the power to declare 4 vacant seats when those MPs have not switched parties? When those 4 members of Parliament, they haven't switched parties in this current in this current Parliament. What Sori is saying is neither here nor there.
Well, now he made reference to Article 2.1.
Yeah, and what does Article 2.1 say?
It says that a person who alleges that an enactment or anything contained or is done under the authority of that or any other enactment, or B, any act or omission of any person is inconsistent with or is in contravention of a provision of this Constitution, may bring an action in the Supreme Court for a declaration to that effect. Clause 2. The Supreme Court shall, for the purposes of a declaration under Clause 1 of this article, make such orders and give such directions as it may consider appropriate for giving effect or enabling effect to be given to the declaration so made.
Now, if from what you have read, who has the ultimate power to make that declaration? Is the Supreme Court. Who has the ultimate power to state that the provision or the practice or whatever you have brought before it is not right? The Supreme Court. So if the Supreme Court have looked at a case before it and has made a declaration that the Speaker of Parliament is wrong to declare the forces vacant, and therefore he cannot go by what he has threatened to do or what he has declared to do, then what must the Speaker do? And what must the MPs also do? They must obey the Supreme Court. But at the moment, they are not giving any effect to what the Supreme Court have said, and that is travesty. That is travesty. So I can't see how Surrey can have, on one breath trying to preach to the converted, and the next breath come back and say that I'm not too sure about what I'm saying. That is wrong.
It is wrong. Okay. How can we safeguard the independence and integrity of Parliament if it's no longer is a closed book or has a closed book rule?
Now, you see, there's this saying. I'm sure anyone who does either government or constitutional law, or even if you're studying law, one of those basic things that you learn is that power corrupt and absolute power corrupt absolutely, right? So if now the Parliament is going beyond its boundaries, then it is right for the Supreme Court to bring them to book, to let them know that they are not an institution that is above any institution in Ghana. They are a co-equal arm of government, and therefore they must conform to the norms and to what the provisions of the Constitution actually says. And they cannot take the law into their own hands because they wanted to score political points. That is not right. And so if you have the privilege of making rules to govern you, to help you, to assist you, to bring smooth running of the legislature, and you decided to abuse it, then it is right for Parliament to bring it to end. It is right for the Supreme Court to bring it to book.
Let me go to Dr. Mohammed Abbas for his thoughts on certain things. Dr. Abbas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
In all of this, when we're coming to the ruling of it, what did you for once think that the ruling would go against the majority, or Alexander Fenyomakin, who sent it to court, and seeing that the government would then have been in opposition in Parliament, or would have been minority in Parliament?
I remember in our previous discussion, I said I didn't have any expectation in terms of the direction of the ruling. But what I expected was that the ruling will be objective, it will be impartial, and then it will be in the interest of the nation. And I think that is what, for me, matters. And that is what I anticipated. And given what has unfolded now, what has happened now, I still think that it is in that order or along that line. It is objective. The details write-up has been provided now, and the experts and those who are concerned with law and constitutional issues will read it and learn a lot of things from it, as I said. And it is along the line of objectivity, impartiality, and having evidence from the Constitution to actually back this. And then again, what...
Hello, Dr. Abbas.
Hello?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now. Please go on.
Yeah, so that what has unfolded now, I think, we should come from the perspective of trying to understand rather than still holding on to our opinion and wanting our or trying to look at it from our own lenses. We should remove the lenses, especially the lawyers, and then try to learn from this and add up to what will help them to not only advance their course or career, but also to serve the interests of the citizens and the nation at large.
Could this decision lead to increased political polarization or strategic alliances in Ghana's political landscape?
When it comes to from the judiciary, I don't see that actually happening, especially when we are all prepared to humble ourselves and submit ourselves to the rule of law, and knowing very well that we are not the master or masters of these things that we are talking about. So we come from the perspective of trying to relate to what has happened, understand this. If we do that, it is rather going to unite us. Because as I said earlier, our opinions might vary. Whatever we think might vary. But there must be a point of convergence. And we can only get that from the judiciary if we allow and support the judiciary to do its work well. And wherever we don't get it right or we don't understand it, we can even appeal or seek for further understanding. We cannot get this from the executive. We all know how when it comes to executive and these two major parties, even among the major parties themselves, all these controversies and a whole lot of things that is happening. We can't also get this in Parliament. Look at this issue that even came up. Parliament were never able to even unite on the decision that let's find a solution to this, let alone even acting on that decision. Okay, so the judiciary is a point of convergence, and if things come from the judiciary this way and we all try to relate and understand it, and when we are not okay, appeal to it, that is what I believe rather will bring some unity to all of us rather than any other thing else.
Okay, well, let me come back to you, Lawyer Dankwa. Hello, Lawyer Dankwa, are you still there?
I'm here. I'm with you.
Okay. Is switching of political parties in Parliament different from switching of parties outside of Parliament? Let's understand the differences or the similarities.
Well, you see, every MP stands on a ticket of a party, right? And the constituents vote for two things. They vote for the person who is going to represent them, and also vote for the party they believe that will help govern the nation well. So if you switch parties whilst in Parliament, right, then you have to declare your seat vacant, right, and then go and stand on the ticket of whichever party you wanted to swear allegiance to. Or if you want to go independent, you put your case before your constituents, and if they are happy with your message, they'll vote for you. If they are not, they'll vote for somebody else. So that is, that is one. But then when you are switching party, right, you are switching party allegiance. You may not necessarily be an MP, you can switch. But if you're an MP and you switch, right, that you have to do that. You have to declare your intentions for the people that you expect to vote for you. Are you with me?
Yes.
And in doing so, you have to then embrace the new party that you are going to join, their policies, and then sell that policies to your constituents. What you cannot do is stand on a ticket of one, and then when you go to Parliament, you decided that you wanted to switch because you're not happy with that one, because you're not there to represent yourself. You are there to represent your constituents. So that's the two differences.
Okay, but the NPP's constitution, Article 3, Clause 9, Subclause 1 of the NPP's constitution says, under forfeiture of membership, that a member of the party who stands as an independent candidate against the officially elected member of the party, or who joins or declares his or her support for another political party or for an independent candidate when the party has sponsored a candidate in a general or by-election, automatically forfeits his or her membership of the party. Already, the NPP, under their own constitution, have set out clear guidelines on what constitutes not being a member of their party. So this is where also some people or some Ghanaians say that there is some misunderstanding in their own constitution?
Well, I think, I'm not a member of the NPP, so I cannot speak to their constitution. But what I can speak to is this, that from what you have narrated to me, it means that if I state that at the next parliament, I am not going to stand with you, I am going to go with another party, or I'm going to stand as independent. So what you are doing, and what in this instant case, what the Speaker have done is called preemptive strike. Preemptive strike. You are thinking ahead of what I'm going to do, and you are going to hit me now before I get to do it. And that is wrong. I can tell you that in this parliament, I am with you and I support all your policies and I'll defend all your policies. But the next parliament, I don't think your policies going into the next parliament, fits in with my beliefs and my values and my ideology. So for that reason, I am going to join a party that I believe can help the nation, and the party that I believe in their ideology. So it doesn't mean that because of that, you have to get rid of me in this parliament before I get there. When you do that, then you are becoming a Bob Marley. Cut it down before you grow. Cut the tree down before the tree grows. But that is not what the Constitution says, and that's not what should happen. So if that is the practice of the NPP, and that's how they interpret their own Constitution, then that Constitution cannot affect the 1992 Constitution, because at the end of it, no Constitution is supreme than the 1992 Constitution, and every Constitution has to be interpreted in line with the 1992 Constitution.
Well, in the ruling of the Supreme Court, it still does not explicitly state what constitutes a switching, so much so that we want to understand what will it be. What can we say is that you have switched in Parliament? What is that thing we can touch and say that you have switched from this party to another party?
You have to tell your party whip. You have to tell your party leadership, the chairman, the general secretary. You have to inform them of your switch. But a behavior of an MP doesn't constitute a switch, because if that is the case, then we can never have a cooperation in Parliament, because there are certain policies that maybe at the incumbent government will bring a policy and will try to persuade the opposition to buy into their policies. But the opposition have to see whether that policy will benefit the nation, not because the idea is coming from the incumbent government or incumbent party. So if we support them, then everybody will know that they are doing well, and then when it gets our turn, they'll play. People will not support us. This has been the disease of Ghanaian politics. Then that is why there is no continuity. When one party starts something, or one government belonging to a particular party starts something which is very good, and they end their tenure, and the next government comes with a different party, they don't want to continue because they think people will give credit to that party. And this selfishness and this nepotism is what is killing our Ghanaian politics. And the Supreme Court was right to lay it bare. They don't have to support a party. They don't have to state what constitutes a switch. They are just interpreting what the Constitution says and what every Ghanaian must take into consideration.
Well, let me go back to Doc, and then I'll come back to you finally, sir.
Thank you.
Doc, Dr. Abbas.
Hello.
Should this ruling bring us some finality?
In terms of the current controversy, yes, it should bring a finality, because I don't see why we should drag things beyond this ruling, given what we have gone through. Indeed, this was, as was expressed by some people, a problem or controversy that could have been resolved politically. But I saw that right from the word go, no room was even created for that resolution. There wasn't any space at all. So politically, we had failed actually to resolve this, and it went the legal way, and it's at the Supreme Court. And as my colleague over there is saying, the Supreme Court is supreme. Okay, so if the Supreme Court had gone to all this length to bring us to where we are now. I don't think, as far as the current controversy is concerned, we should go beyond what we have gotten now. But of course, the debate will continue because learning never stops. Okay, so based on the judgment, what has come now, the write-up, the detailed write-up, we'll continue the discussion will continue from today till when we are all exhausted and think at least we have had enough.
Okay, so when we are exhausted, well, we'll look at the conversation going on and on again. Lord Dankwa, coming back to you on the Supreme Court not giving a finality on what constitutes a switch. In this sense, don't you think that it will, this loophole will give the parliamentarians or politicians an opportunity to exploit the loophole? Because as it stands, most politicians or most parliamentarians defect when they lose their primaries.
As far as I'm concerned, I think the ruling by the Supreme Court will really rejuvenate and re-energize our constitution, and that members of Parliament will not be afraid to express what they feel and what they see and what they believe needs to happen. If you look at the Western world, that is what happens. You know, if you take a place like the United Kingdom, where they did not, I believe, what the government is doing, right? Its own government members resigned. They resigned and they took a firm stand against, you know, their own government, just so that things will be done right. But right now, the way these constitutions are drafted by the NDC and NPP is such that you cannot speak. When the top hierarchy speaks and you don't even believe what they are saying, and you think what they are doing is not right, it will not help the nation Ghana, you can't say anything, because the moment you say something, you'll be labeled as what? A rebel. And then you be expelled from the party, and then you lose your position as what? As an MP. So many of these MPs are just there and they are just following the crowd. They are just going with whatever is happening. And that is not what it should happen. What the ruling has clearly stated will empower and it will embolden MPs to speak out if their government is not doing right, to speak out against them so they can change course and Ghana will be right. And that is what I think every parliamentarian or every member, every politician who is putting themselves forward to be nominated and elected for MP must have in mind. So I think, you know, Ghana is going to look good, and Ghana is going to be a better place for all Ghanaians, and I certainly love my mother Ghana.
Well, if it will embolden our MPs to speak out if they are not happy with certain things the government is doing, do you believe that this ruling has brought finality to all of these conversations we've been having over the past 1 month?
To be honest with you, in the start, I thought that there wasn't any issue until the speaker made it an issue. So this will bring finality to it, and every well-informed, every reasoned-minded person will know that we don't have a problem in Ghana because the Supreme Court have solved our problems. And we'll enjoy Christmas, we'll enjoy whoever comes to the power, and we'll look forward to a brighter future for Mother Ghana.
Well, some say that they envision Speaker not going by the ruling. Do you believe that?
No, I don't think so. I think the Speaker, the Speaker is a very seasoned politician, and he knows, he knows what to do, and he will do what is right. And in an event where he decides not to do what is right, there's a process for which he can be removed as a Speaker. He can be impeached and removed as a Speaker. When you don't want to go with the Constitution, when you have sworn an allegiance to uphold the Constitution, then you have to, whether you like it or not. This is not about personal. It's not about personal interest or settling personal scores. This is about the Constitution. It's about the nation. It's about the people. Everybody is there because of the people of Ghana. And so when the people have spoken, you must listen and you must do what is right. And I believe, and I have every assurance and every confidence that the Speaker will do what is right.
Well, must there be or should there be a formal admittance by the Speaker of all what has happened? Will that also help Ghanaians in any way?
I don't think we need to rub things in. We all know what has happened. We know the decision that the Parliament have taken, and I think we should let all dogs lie low. You know, we have to bury all the hatchets, and let's support the Speaker to manage Parliament so that, you know, the parliamentarians can do their work and to come, you know, we follow their policies and decisions that will help us to, you know, to grow our nation. At the moment, we are in economic crisis, and we need a solution to these things. And we need those MPs to put their heads together to make sure that they come up with policies that will help us. And we should support them. And we should not alienate, you know, we should not, score any political points by saying that I told you so or whatever. It will not help us, and it will not benefit anybody.
Okay, let me come back to you, Dr. Abbas, and then we'll be ending the conversation. Dr. Abbas, some say that, as the NDC MPs have said, they say some of them have said that they won't be going back to Parliament. What does this mean for our political institution?
Well, that is a statement they have made, but they are public officers. They have where they are because the people have elected them over there, and their main duty is to represent the people and not. It's not about themselves. So whatever they say and whatever they decide to do, their action should be in the interest of the people that they represent. Currently, what I'm hearing, I think, people can say this based on how dissatisfied they are. So these are emotional talks. But now let's see the way clear. Everything starts with Speaker, and then, of course, the majority side of Parliament. So the real action is going to come from these two angles. Either it's going to come from the Speaker, or it's going to come from the majority and through the Speaker for them to act. And when we get there, then that is where we will really pay attention to how they are going to react to those initiations.
Dr. Abbas, from a political standpoint, would it be feasible for Speaker to reconvene Parliament, given how close we are to the 7th December elections?
Why not? At least, even if not to the extent that we expect, because we all are aware of the current time limitations and the current vigorous nature of the political activity. But at least, given all that has happened, we want to see something, okay, even if it is symbolic, to show that now Parliament has come again together, Parliament has gathered itself and is ready to end smoothly. And then, of course, hopefully, when we come next Parliament, we know we are going to start on a very, very good note. So we should definitely see something, even if it is symbolic, at least to assure Ghanaians that, yes, the controversy has been resolved, and then the way forward is clear for all of us.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mohammed Abbas. We are grateful for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
Lawyer Dankwa, thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure always.
Lawyer Yao Dankwa is a private legal practitioner and a constitutional lawyer, and Dr. Mohammed Abbas is a lecturer, political science lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. We earlier spoke with Samuel Bain, Executive Director for Parliamentary Network Africa. All of the conversations has been about Supreme Court. The court released its verdict yesterday, and 109-page verdict on its ruling about the declaration of vacant seats in Parliament. And that's the conversation we've had today. If there's more to come, if there's more conversation on it, rest assured that we will bring you all of that on ABC News GH, so you don't want to miss out at all. Because you want to stay abreast with everything that we are doing, log on to our website, www.abcnewsgh.com, our socials at abcnewsgh_. And we have the Poll Center here for you. Vote, not violence. And the Poll Center is your credible, your go-to for all of the information you need about the elections, before the elections, during the elections, and after the elections. Know that we'll bring you real-time transmission of events so that you do not miss out at all. So your TV should always be tuned into the Poll Center here on ABC News GH and on your YouTube, because you have to turn on post notification. Anytime we are live, you would receive that notification that ABC News GH is live. Don't miss out at all. And Poll Center, we say votes, not violence. Pay attention to your votes and your votes only. Don't be used as a conduit or a tool for any form of violence before, during, and after the elections. That's all for our main discussion for this morning. Let's take a breather. We will be back.
This is where the headlines are probed, policies scrutinized through an objective lens with an unbiased approach to every discussion. Key in to a series of pulsating conversations with the hard questions.
Why do you still want to run when you have failed?
I haven't. What do you mean by failed?
In-depth analysis of policy proposals.
If it's a temporary program, why do we want to still create another gold reserve exchange program also to address a temporary issue?
If you introduce a temporary measure and you realize that the temporary measure works and is sustainable, you have to rethink whether or not it should just be temporary.
And every agenda and positions intellectually debated to set the record straight.
Look, you still don't answer the question now.
Go on.
Question is, if Article 78(1) is anything to go by, your ministers of state largely are supposed to come from the parliament.
Yes.
The law says that not less than 10 and not more than 19. So these are your cabinet, your ministers of state you're going to get. How do you intend to resolve? Have you thought about managing that head-up?
Absolutely. If I hadn't, I probably would not get on the fray to do this.
On Focus on ABC, we focus on the matter, the personality, and the answer beyond the rhetoric. Focus on ABC shows every Thursday at 7 p.m. only on ABC News Ghana Television.
Welcome back. Up next is Politics Today. Politics Today this morning, we're looking at corruption and election 2024. Why has corruption taken the back bench? So we'll have this conversation today. And today's special edition of Politics Today, we are focusing around two critical topics that are on everybody's minds: corruption and elections. As Ghanaians prepare to head to the polls, we will examine the manifestos of various political parties, particularly their plans to address corruption and promote good governance. In our analysis, we will explore the following key areas. We want to know: what concrete steps will the political parties take to tackle corruption and ensure accountability? We will also analyze the manifestos of the NDC, National Democratic Congress, and the NPP, the New Patriotic Party, as well as other political parties. We will assess their promises, policies, and programs, considering their feasibility and potential impact. Additionally, we will engage with political parties and examine the results of various surveys and projections concerning corruption as presented by these parties. According to CDD Ghana's pre-election surveys, corruption ranked as follows: second out of 11 issues. That was in 2016 of July 2016. Second out of 10 issues, October 2016, and second out of 12 issues, October 2020. In Professor Owusu Mensah's pre-election study of 24 swing constituencies in 2016, the issue of corruption ranked fourth out of a total of 8 issues. In a global info analytics poll conducted in April 2024, corruption was ranked 6th out of 15 important issues. And in Professor Smart Sapon's baseline report from April 2024, corruption was ranked 10th out of a total of 12 issues. One important distinction across these surveys and polls is that the framing of the questions varies. Now, let's take a look at what some of these political parties have been saying about corruption in their manifestos. This is the NDC's plan to combat corruption in their 2024 manifesto as captured. 1. Launch an Operation Recover All Loot to investigate, prosecute, and recover proceeds of corruption. 2. Initiate legislation to prohibit political appointees, politically exposed persons, and all serving public officials from purchasing state assets. 3. Establish a state assets registry to effectively protect state assets, usher in an era of transparency and accountability in the management of state assets, and address the issues. These are some of the things that the NDC captured in its 2024 manifesto. Franklin Cudjoe mentioned, he talked about the new form of corruption in Ghana. We have a video of it, and let's take a listen.
I mean, I just don't understand. Now, there's a new form of corruption, really. We call it the state capture through private sector actors. Of course, Ghana GBG is one of them, and then, of course, SML is also one of them. But there's some sort of justification, to borrow my colleague's Bryce Simmons' term, that we are enchanted because the processes or the project that these things go to support seem to be overly good. So the national ID card is a wonderful project. Why would you want to question why you are receiving cards for free? What's the point? I mean, if India did it for less than $1, 600 million people have been put onto the national ID card. Why are we paying so much for the national ID card? That's the question we asked. Now, take it from me. I was one of those who actually supported, through being a member of the Danish Business Sounding Board, Private Sector Board. We actually somehow blessed that project when through Danida, as some part of the money, that's Sounding Board, Private Sector Board. We actually somehow blessed that project.
Franklin Cudjoe of Imani Ghana talking about the new form of corruption. But we're looking at the NDC's manifesto about corruption. The NDC also said that they will set up an inquiry into the matter of looted state lands and the implementation of the Accra redevelopment policy and make recommendations as appropriate. They said that they would conduct a forensic audit and an inquiry into the National Cathedral scandal and make recommendations on the future of the project. The NDC also says launch inquiries into the numerous scandals that have rocked the nation under the corrupt NPP government. And this is the NDC's plan to combat corruption as captured in the 2024 manifesto. In their 2024 manifesto, we'll have conversations on corruption and elections and see how it goes. Yes. The NDC also said that they would implement the recommendations of the Justice Yawa Powell Commission of Inquiry into Judgment Debts as approved in the government white paper and enact a conflict of interest legislation for all government and public officials. They are looking at setting up an independent value for money office to scrutinize government procurements above $5 million or as Parliament may decide. The NDC also says they will review the Public Procurement Act 2003, Act 663 as amended to ensure value for money and transparency in the public procurement process and pursue procurement reforms to prevent conflict of interest and insider dealing by politically exposed persons in the award of contracts. They also says implement measures to curtail abuse of single-sourced and restricted tendering procurement and collaborate with the judiciary to establish a special court for persons whom adverse findings have been made against by the Auditor General and Parliament. We'll bring you the NPP's manifesto as how they also look to combat corruption. But let's have a conversation with Samuel Harrison Kujo. He is a programs officer with GACC, the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition. Hello, Samuel. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, madam.
Samuel, the conversation on corruption has not taken center stage in this year's election. What has accounted for this?
Okay, so first of all, good morning to you and to your listeners. Corruption has not taken center stage for two reasons. One being the fact that the political parties have not made a lot of commitments when it comes to the anti-corruption issues within their manifestos. So, for example, you could see that on a small work that we did, for all of the political parties and independent people who want to stand for election, a total of 39 commitments are made regarding anti-corruption. And out of these, NPP and NDC account for only about 32 of those. Out of that 32, only 4 is on the operationalization of anti-corruption laws and anti-corruption rules. You know, so the parties have not given it enough prominence with regards to their manifestos. That is one. Secondly, and which flows from the first one, based on work that we have seen done by the Global Info Analytics, done by the NCC, you see that there is a trend of employment, economy, and health being the top 3 issues at play in the discussion. And I think that we are not averting our minds to the fact that if these 3 areas are going to get better, then we need to have a conversation on corruption, a conversation that allows us to ensure that all those 3 areas are working seamlessly. There is no, they are able to get access to the funding, and the funding is used for exactly what it is meant to be used for and not diverted in any other way. So this is the reason why we are not having the corruption conversation come up. One, because the political parties are not giving it prominence, and two, because it looks like citizens are shifting away from corruption to discussing other issues. Possibly it could be because of the disappointment they have had when it comes to how this government has dealt with corruption and issues that are related to corruption. So that's the reason why we do not see the corruption conversation coming up strongly in the elections.
If citizens are shifting away from corruption and discussing other issues, could it be that we are disenchanted with our political parties? We are just going with the flow as it stands.
Yes. So when I was speaking, I made a point that it could be because citizens are disappointed, especially with this government's rhetoric and very little action when it comes to fighting corruption. I could see that looking at how the promises this government gave with regards to corruption, and looking at how this government has conducted itself with regards to corruption, citizens are not too enthused, and they are not encouraged to look at corruption and to think that something is going to be done about it. But I think that this is where we as civil society and the media also ought to come in and point our fellow citizens in the right direction. We need to have a conversation on corruption. You see, underlying all of the unemployment, underlying all of the sinking economy, underlying all of the sinking health are issues of corruption. For example, if you look at the World Bank, we went to the World Bank for an ECF, right? And the ECF was focusing on macroeconomic issues and how to get the economy on its feet and all of that. But this ECF did not, I mean, like it was narrow in application. It did not look at the broader issues of the application of our public financial management laws. It did not look at the issue of strengthening independent state institutions. That would be a check on some of these agencies. I mean, it's sad when you get to see how much this country loses with regards to corruption. I mean, based on all that we are losing, then it is no wonder that our economy is not doing as well as it ought, right? So I think that yes, citizens are disappointed because and are talking about other issues away from corruption because they are disappointed with how this government in particular has conducted itself. But I think that there is also the room for us as civil society and as media to shepherd our colleagues in the right direction.
You mentioned that the political parties have highlighted certain ways by which they will combat corruption in their manifestos. However, you say that they do not place prominence on it. Should any of them win, even at this point of campaigning, they are not lauding the issue. Should they win, do you think it is at that time when they will be more stringent on these issues?
I think that
Hello, Samuel.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you now. Please
proceed. So I think that we've gotten to a point where, as citizens, we cannot afford to be passive any longer. And when I say that, I use the example of the domestic debt exchange that happened in this country. Now you see that people lost huge sums of money. Question is, who are these people who lost the sums of money? It's us citizens. Why did we lose this money? Because we sat and watched and possibly joined the sloganeering when government was borrowing us into unsustainable debt, right? We saw how COVID-19 money was dissipated, given to party people and all of that. We have seen the audits done by the Ghana Audit Service on COVID-19, and we have seen the losses that we made. All of it is because we as citizens refused to speak up when things were going wrong. I think that no matter who wins the election and no matter what they have captured in their manifesto, we as citizens should not keep quiet. We ought to put the governance on their toes. We can no longer afford to be silent citizens, because, again, when you look at the domestic debt exchange, it is us citizens who have lost money. We have lost huge, people's pensions monies are gone. We have seen our former Chief Justice and other pensioners picketing at the Ministry of Finance asking for their money. We have seen people who have saved for as much as 30 years lose all of their money because of the domestic debt exchange. What I'm saying is that no matter who wins the election, no matter what they promised in their manifesto, we can no longer afford to be passive citizens. We ought to be active citizens. We ought to put the leadership on their toes any way possible. We ought to hold them to our existing anti-corruption frameworks and hold them to the small things that they promised in their manifesto. I think that if we did that, then we are going to see some level of result. But if we decide to continue to be passive citizens, then we are going to be in a lot of trouble.
Samuel, where does CSOs, or where do CSOs come in this when you say that we should be active citizens? Which role would you be playing in sensitizing us to be able to better hold our leaders to account?
So for us as CSOs, our key role is sensitization, letting people understand what the issues are. And we do not do the sensitization in a vacuum. Very often, our sensitization is backed by evidence, is backed by data. The problem is that the Ghanaian citizen is so partisan in their outlook that when we start talking, you get to see people who are in government going all lengths, trying to rubbish the work that we have done, trying to make it look like we are members of the opposition and people should not listen to us and all of that. What we can do is sensitization. What we can do is to break down the issues for people to understand. What we can do is to bring out the evidence. But ultimately, it comes back to all of us as citizens to rise up and be active in the governance. Civil society and the media, like you are doing, we would educate everybody. We would explain the issues to people. But we need our colleague citizens to be active and to stand with us. When we have to demonstrate, we need colleague citizens to come out and join us in the demonstration. When we have to speak truth to power, we need colleague citizens to stand up and join us to speak truth to power. So yes, we will do sensitization, we will do the research, we will do the monitoring, we will bring out the needed evidence. But we need citizens to stand and to be active. I think that that's what civil society has been doing, and that is what we will continue to do.
In the lead up to the elections, is the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition doing anything about trumpeting the need to stand against corruption?
Yes, so we are doing a lot of things. Currently, this morning, we are having a forum on the monetization of politics in Ghana. If you read the research, it tells us that for anybody, in fact, as at 2022, anybody who was willing to be president was going to spend close to $100 million. Anybody who was willing to be MP was going to spend anything close to $1 million. That was in 2022 when our exchange rate was maybe about 5 or 6 cedis to a dollar. Now in 2024, you have 17 cedis to a dollar. So if a candidate is spending $100 million to win the elections, then you and I know the amount of debt that people are bringing into office and which they would have to find money to pay back. So we are having a conversation on it. We have invited, we have some students here from Accra High School with us. We have other people. Again, we are also engaging first-time voters on a project where we are aiming to teach them the laws around elections in Ghana, right? So that these first-time voters, people who have just registered to vote, would know what they can do and what they cannot do. For us, it is our contribution towards having a transparent and peaceful election in Ghana. We tell people that there are laws against bribery during elections and there are laws against what is called treating during elections. to the extent that if you go against these laws, you could either be fined up to 6,000 Ghana cedis or go to jail for 2 years or both. And after you have come out of jail, you are banned from any public election for the next 5 years. I think that it's something that people ought to know, especially young people who are going to vote for the first time. So that's what we are doing. And yesterday, we convened a meeting with the political parties where we examined their anti-corruption commitments to hold them to it. So we are very active when it comes to the election. We are hoping to see a lot more Ghanaians, joining us in these things to understand the issues at play and to ensure that we have free, fair, and peaceful elections in Ghana.
Samuel, how do we curb the monetization of our political campaigns here in Ghana?
Well, monetization of political campaigns is just about implementing the laws that we have. We have laws in this country. For example, we have a law that authorizes the EC to get audited accounts from the political parties, right, every 6 months and 90 days before an election. We have the Office of the Special Prosecutor who did some work on bribery during elections, and we saw a few people, especially during their party primaries, who were throwing money around and all of that, who were invited by the OSP. Currently, we do not see those actions, not because it has stopped, but because people know that there is somebody applying the law, and so a lot of them have been driven underground, right? This is what we can do. Let us apply the laws. Let us have a state agency willing and able to crack the whip on some of these things. But in all of that, we also have to amend our Political Parties Act. You see, when the Political Parties Act gives the EC the power to demand audited accounts from the political parties, people are now being smart by funneling the money to the candidate, not to the political party. So you see a lot of money going into candidates' hands and not to their. So when you ask the political party to bring an audited account, they will bring an audited account. But it is not an account of what they spent during the election, because the money did not come to the party, it went to the candidate. So we may even have to amend our political parties law to take care of this thing. And yesterday at our forum, we trumpeted that issue as well. So I mean, it's all is not lost. There is a lot that we would have to do. But like I said, it all begins with us committing to be active citizens. That is the first step in the process. Then we'll begin to hold our leaders to account.
Also, the need for a state agency that is willing to crack the whip when it comes to corruption-related issues. Thank you for your time this morning, Samuel.
Thank you very much, madam.
Samuel Harrison, the programs officer for the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, GACC. He says at the moment they're running a program for people to be more abreast about corruption issues, and I'm sure we would all be very interested in being a part of it. And that's all for politics today. This one, let's take a short breather. We'll be back.
It's about
This is where the headlines are probed, policies scrutinized through an objective lens with an unbiased approach to every discussion. Key in to a series of pulsating conversations with the hard questions.
Why do you still want to run when you have failed?
I haven't. What do you mean by failed?
In-depth analysis of policy proposals.
If it is a temporary program, why do we want to still create another gold reserve exchange program also to address a temporary issue?
If you introduce a temporary measure and you realize that the temporary measure works and is sustainable, you have to rethink whether or not it should just be temporary.
And every agenda and positions intellectually debated to set the record straight.
Look, you've still not answered the question now.
Go on.
Question is, if Article 78(1) is anything to go by, your ministers of state largely are supposed to come from the parliament.
Yes.
The law says that not less than 10 and not more than 19. So these are your cabinet, your ministers of state you're going to get. How do you intend to resolve? Have you thought about managing that header?
Absolutely. If I hadn't, I probably would not get on the parade to do this.
On Focus on ABC, we focus on the matter, the personality, and the answer beyond the rhetoric. Focus on ABC shows every Thursday at 7 p.m. only on ABC News Ghana television.
Mid-year budget review with some key allocations.
We are currently here at Kanisu.
When the news breaks, we are there. In the heart of matters arising, we follow through with the right question. Don't miss a beat with our in-depth news analysis. From breaking news, special feature stories, latest news, we bring you the stories that matter. Our team of immersed reporters bring you the news as it happens. Join us every 6 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. each day for a comprehensive look at the stories beyond the headlines.
You're watching ABC News GH.
ABC News GH, your trusted source for news.
let's get into executive interview. This is the segment for you. We give you all of the opportunity to speak about that service, that product you have, and get in touch with us on 053-916-1609, 053-916-1609. Today on executive interview, we are looking at promoting African investment firms, and we will be speaking with Nicholas Carl Clerk. He is the Investment Ecosystem Development Manager for Renew Capital. Investment firms are pivotal for fostering economic growth and driving sustainable development across the continent. And these firms play a critical role in mobilizing capital, supporting local entrepreneurs, and advancing industries that are crucial for Africa's economic transformation. And to better understand investment firms and how we can find expression in them, indeed, we will speak with Nicholas Carl Clerk. Nicholas, good morning. Thank you for joining.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me, and
your
good morning
name is such
to your
a tongue
listeners as
twister,
well.
so I keep twisting it. Pardon me.
So I'll just do a quick background, and you are almost spot on with that. My name is Nicholas Carl Clerk.
Carl Clerk.
Very simple, yeah, pretty much one syllable words all through.
Right.
And I represent Renew Capital in Ghana. I manage our projects in country and including our sourcing activities within the West African space as well.
Right. So you manage Renew Capital, you've mentioned across the country and then within some West African states. Tell us what Renew Capital is all about.
My pleasure. Renew Capital is an investment firm that focuses on empowering African businesses to thrive. The interesting part about our business is our unique model, which combines investing, management training, and ecosystem building, allows us to accelerate the growth of SMEs across the continent, and particularly in my case, in Ghana and West Africa. We believe that by providing capital and the tools businesses need to scale, we can help them grow into economic engines that essentially drive sustainable development and create that lasting impact we want to see on the continent.
Renew Capital different from the other firms that do the same thing you do?
Yeah, that's a very good question. What sets that apart, in my opinion, is the blended approach we use. You have other investment firms that maybe just investing money and providing some level of support, but we are a bit more hands-on. We don't just invest money. We provide hands-on management support and training to entrepreneurs in the very different ecosystems we essentially tap into. We also have a consulting arm that helps us in terms of driving our ecosystem building activity. So we're not just looking to source deals or looking to source businesses and invest in them. We're looking to develop ecosystems and supercharge them so that we can bridge that gap between capital and capacity. In a nutshell, we are solving what we call a $90 billion problem on the continent, where we are focusing on businesses that find themselves in what we call the missing middle, i.e. businesses that are too large for microfinance and also too small for traditional private equity. So this combination of funding, expertise, and network development for us ensures that the business not only thrives on its own, it's in an enabling environment where it can essentially tap into more capital, tap into more expertise, tap into more resources for it to be more sustainable in terms of its growth. And for us, as long as the continent is supercharged, we're super excited about that.
But what's the best period? What's the best period for one to hold an investment?
The best period in what sense? Is it duration for us or for the company when they are seeking business?
The professional on this, give us 3 factors that will drive my holding an investment, and then maybe you can show us the best period within those 3 factors.
Question is not too clear. Could you please rephrase that?
Well,
it's not too clear.
Since we're speaking about investment, the need to invest and also to grow in the ecosystem, if I were to invest and you were to give me 3 factors that will drive my decision to effect, I'm asking that you give me those 3 factors and show me within those factors the best time to invest.
Well, the best time is now. I wouldn't want to give any investment advice, but then the best time, in my opinion, is now in terms of investments on the continent. In terms of what I would think you should look at, essentially you should pretty much know what you're backing, really. You should know the business model you're trying to work with. You should know the founder you are trying to work with or to support. I feel like those are very two strong pillars you could use to essentially inform your investment decision in any company or in any venture.
You mentioned that you were looking at businesses that are too big for the regular small investment firms and maybe too large for the equity firms. So if I want to come and invest, or I want to come to Renew Capital, which kind of entity or which kind of company or entrepreneur should I be to be able to fit into your scope?
Perfect question. And yes, too big for microfinance, yet too small for traditional private equity. So as a business, I just think you should be very growth oriented. You should have a strong potential for impact and scalability. Because for us, we work with firms and we work with founders who have innovative ideas, setting up good management teams, since we focus on early stage companies, and operating in sectors that, in our opinion, significantly contribute to Africa's economic development. So we love businesses that we describe as painkillers to a problem. We want solutions that are lasting. We want solutions that drive growth, not just from a profitability perspective, but also from an impact and positive social perspective.
Right.
I think in that vein, we have this program coming up in Ghana, which is supposed to be launched maybe sometime next year, but I'm just giving you guys a scoop for now. We call that the SPRINT program, which is an acronym for the Startup Preparation for Investment Training, which we want to use to supercharge 3 key sectors. And these are sectors of very important impact, in our opinion, which is the blue economy. And the blue economy, for those who don't know, the World Bank defines the blue economy simply as the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods and jobs, while preserving the health of the ocean ecosystem. We're doing the blue economy, we're doing plastic waste and management, plastic and waste management, and we're doing climate adaptation. So we're trying to focus on these 3 sectors, which we feel haven't been looked at in a lot of detail. And we're working with a development partner, NORAD, to launch this type of training, to launch these type of activities, to supercharge these 3 ecosystems.
Okay. If anybody wants to get in touch with Renew Capital, where will we find you and what are your contact details?
Sure, thank you. You could simply visit our website, renewcapital.com, and just pretty much just send a chat over. We're always happy to have these conversations, and best believe we respond to these conversations, and always these conversations get to the rightful people within the company.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for speaking with us, Nicholas.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Nicholas Carl Clerk is an investment ecosystem development manager for Renew Capital. We looked at promoting African investment firms, and Renew Capital is an investment firm, and they say that you should come to them and you'll be better for it. That's all for Executive Interview. A very short break, and we will be back with Happy Hour.
5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot.